Hello, everyone. How are you? We are doing a special segment of Homeschool Hints. My podcast, the Cleverly Changing Podcast, we have an audio version that you can find on most platforms where podcasts are played. And I am Elle Cole from the blog cleverlychanging.com. I started the blog about 10 years ago, and now I'm doing something new where I'm more visible and I'm trying to really connect with my audience better. And so that is why we created the Homeschool Hints series, because so many families are starting to homeschool and a lot of people have questions. So we can't always answer the questions all at once. So this gives us an opportunity to have a candid conversation and answer your questions collectively. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments section and interact with us. I have one of my friends here with me. She is a guest. She is a phenomenal mother, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. But I will say that we have known each other. Wow, I think it's been like more than 15 years.
Yeah, just about. Yeah. Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Kwani. My friends call me Kwani. As you can see, my name on the screen is Dr. Quantrilla Ard. I have recently earned, yes, I did. I earned my PhD in health psychology. And the Lord just put it on our hearts to homeschool last year, going into the 1920 school year. And I can't say enough how much of a blessing it was for us because, when people were talking about homeschooling, I was not signing up for it, just to be honest, I wasn't signing up for that, but what I can say is that I'm so grateful because, we had no idea that things were going to end or turn out the way that they have. So here we are, homeschooling. And it's so funny because I'm sure most people feel the same way. And here we are, homeschooling.
Yes. I love to think that my friends who started homeschooling last year, they got a jump start on everybody else. And homeschooling, you can talk to everybody that you know who homeschools, but it is different when you do it with your own kids.
Absolutely.
And so that is really what we want to get into today, because I know you are an academic, so you did tons of research, and I know we've talked about it before. Yeah. So we really kind of want to get in. What was different between what you studied and how it really was?
That's a good question. I want to say it was less scary. So, as moms or dads who are at home with their children, we want the best experience for them. And most of us have been trained to think that the traditional method of schooling is what's best for our children. But if you take more of a spiritual approach to that, you as their parents are their first teacher. They learned how to talk, they learned how to walk, and sometimes we divorce ourselves from the idea that we really are our children's first teacher. And so what I found homeschool to be was just literally an extension of what I had already been teaching them, what I had already been instilling in them. So it was less scary once I actually got into it and started doing it. I was like, oh, maybe I didn't need to be so intimidated. It was the thought of doing something I'd never done before. It was the thought of, or the weight of realizing that now this bulk of their education was dependent on me and my ability to be attentive and, to kind of dig back into my own educational training. So I found that it was much less intimidating. It was way less scary than I thought it was going to be. And that I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. So yeah, those are the huge differences.
That is awesome. So I want to just clarify to everybody how many kids that you have, because I think that kind of matters.
Yes. Okay. So I have three. And while I only, officially homeschooled two last year, baby girl was right there at the table. She was hearing, she was, in the same environment as her brothers. So I felt like while we were not, officially homeschooling her, she still reaped the benefits from being there. So this year we will be homeschooling all three. So y'all pray my strength in the Lord.
Yes, yes. So I'm a mom of twins. So my homeschool experience is a little bit different because my
Mm-hmm,
kids are in the exact same class. So
mm-hmm,
I always like to just talk to parents who have multiple children in different grades because your experience is very different from mine.
yeah.
And so I have a lot of respect for families that homeschool multiple ages, multiple grades, because kids have all types of different things going on
Mm-hmm.
and they're in different phases. And there are some things that you can do together, and there are some things that you absolutely cannot. So I just want to ask, like, what were some of those things that you were able to do all at once?
Mm-hmm. Um, we were able to do like a lot of the electives together. So anything that involved like them going out for PE or, just the general worship that we had to start the day. And honestly, they're in here bothering me right now. And even some of the, like their science, that we were absolutely able to do together because the curriculum I chose came with little science kits to go with their workbooks. So if one person was doing a particular experiment, everybody got to do the experiment. Or let me say, everybody wanted to do the experiment. So therefore, everybody got to do the experiment. And so it didn't matter whether it was my son's fourth grade experiment or the second grade experiment. Everybody was involved. So things like that are not necessarily age specific or grade specific, but something that everyone can be involved in, specifically like those experiments.
Yes. And I want to say, like, with experiments, you may ask more detailed questions
Mm-hmm.
to the older kids. You may give them more detailed questions, but
Right.
the younger kids are still learning. You're
Mm-hmm.
still exposing them to that information, and you may ask them simpler questions. You may have them do, color something, or you may have the older kid maybe draw it out, whereas the younger kids, you may have a printout and they actually color. So there are ways to tailor
Mm-hmm.
different assignments
Right.
so that it will reach multiple grades. And
Right.
I think that helps to kind of lessen the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're really using your time wisely when you can do that.
For sure. I totally agree. And especially with, I use the example of science, they had their own grade level workbooks. So even though everyone participated in the experiment, whoever's particular experiment it was, they had to do the assignment in their workbook. So, like you said, we could still have the conversation, based on their grade level, but it was still specific to that person's work in their book.
So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions that we get more than any other question about homeschooling is, what curriculum do you use? Now, that is the most popular
It
question.
is. It is.
Well, I'm not going to necessarily say what curriculum did you use,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to hear, when you were researching, what did you find that you loved about different curriculums?
Well, here's what I did. I researched curriculums, and it was a little bit selfish, I'm going to be honest, because at the time I was still in my PhD program. So I searched for curriculums that had the component of it being a student-led curriculum. So something where I wasn't necessarily actively in front of them, writing out assignments or reading to them for extended periods of time, because that didn't fit in our life at the time. So I needed a curriculum where, either there were worksheets or workbooks involved, there were videos or something that they could do or watch on their own, where I was literally just there to be a guide. or maybe just to say, hey, well, remember when you learned this, or remember when you learned that. And, maybe if the instructions aren't clear, I'm here to help them understand those. But that was the primary, what am I saying? The primary factor in choosing a curriculum for our family at the time.
So your kids, they came out of a private school setting. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to make that clear to everybody, because
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, well, you've always been doing this, so it's easy for you. Well, not everybody's always been doing it.
Right.
So I want to know, from the perspective of once having your kids in school and then bringing them home, did you, look at the curriculum that the school was using
Mm-hmm.
and say, how can I just build upon this and use something very similar in case I decide to put them back? Kind of, how did you decide, in terms of what they did before? I know that you picked what was best for you, but it's also a thought in our minds that, if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to send them back.
Right. Absolutely. I chose also a curriculum that I knew had been highly tested and validated when it comes to, testing your children. Because, if you're in a position where I know many parents are right now, where this is a temporary situation for them, they're looking for a curriculum that will allow their children to learn very similar pace at a, very similar items in the curriculum for their year. And that was important for me as well, because, again, it was really a trial year. So I didn't know whether or not they would be going back. So I wanted to make sure that the curriculum was close enough to what they had already been learning and the style they had been learning in, so that if we made a different decision in the future, that it would be a seamless transition for them. Also, I wanted something that was honestly a little bit further ahead as well, because I didn't want there to be any gaps in learning. So I wanted something where if they had to go back in for whatever reason, that not only would they not be at level, I wanted them to be ahead.
That's interesting. And I think that's very honorable. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times when we hear about homeschoolers, some people often think, well, homeschoolers, because they get that one-on-one interaction, they're automatically ahead. And that's not the case. So you have to put in the time. You have to make sure that the curriculum is on par with what their peers are on, if that's something that's important to you. I know everybody really comes from a different perspective
Mm-hmm.
regarding their children's learning. And it's really up to you as a family.
Yeah.
But I know for you, just having a background where you went to school,
Mm-hmm.
so this is completely foreign to anything that
It
you personally knew
is. It
in
is.
the past. So how did you, because when you talk to in-laws and just other people, sometimes they're not always on board with
Mm-hmm.
homeschooling. So how did you navigate that transition from what you already knew as a former student to, this is what's best for my kids? And, how did you also break the news to your family?
That's a good question. So here's the good thing. And I know I'm probably, a unicorn for this, but everyone in my family was completely on board. In-laws, aunts and uncles. I mean, everyone that we told, they were just like, "Oh, that is such a great idea. I think you'd be great at it." And I'm like, "Okay." And part of that is because my aunt homeschooled my cousins. So it wasn't a foreign concept in our family. So, I think most of our family members were already familiar with it because they had homeschooled. And maybe she was the one that had all the questions and all the pushback. But by the time we decided to do it, everybody's like, oh, yeah, great idea. So, we were very fortunate in that regard. And it's so funny. We have, varying degrees of education in our family. We have other educators in our family. So, to have that support it was really phenomenal.
You just talked about what I think is the key to homeschooling success, and that's support.
Yes.
Is support, because I, like you, I've had support from my family, but they're not in the same city.
Mm-hmm.
They're at a distance. So they're like, oh, high five from a
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it, but you can. And it's always interesting when you don't necessarily have people physically around you
Yes.
supporting you. So I know you also kind of had a similar
Yeah.
experience where they weren't, they were supporting you from afar, giving
Yeah.
you words of affirmation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but they weren't necessarily there if you needed somebody to grade some papers or go over some lessons if you had to be away.
Yeah.
Because that sometimes, emergencies happen.
Right.
And so, how did you build a support system so that you could be successful?
Well, I knew that I had friends that I could count on, like, yourself. And funny enough, the year before we started to homeschool, there were several families in our circle that also started to homeschool. And I was just like, oh, okay. So support didn't look like, family being there to grade papers, but I knew I had someone to call to say, I'm not sure if this is correct or help. So I knew support wasn't far away. So I had to kind of develop a non-traditional support system with other homeschooling families as opposed to, somebody just coming over and saying, hey, I'll help you do so and so. And I did have I had one person that I knew I could count on, hands down. So we live in Atlanta now. We were in Maryland when we started homeschooling. But my aunt would come from Atlanta. Like if there was something that I had to do and the kids were at home, she would fly into Maryland and come to there. And all I had to do was say, oh, they need to do these pages, these. And she would literally be like my person there.
Your
So
substitute teacher.
that's right. Look, homeschoolers got substitute teachers too. So yeah, I mean, and part of that was because of the curriculum that I chose, that I was able to hand that off to her. But the other part of it was that she was a part of my support system, and she knew she had committed to being there for them if I needed her. And there were at least 2 times during the school year that I needed to be away. And she was like, no problem. Just let me know what they're supposed to do. And she was very helpful. So, maybe your support system doesn't look traditional. Maybe it looks kind of, hodgepodge. But like you said, that is a huge component of successful homeschooling is having a support system.
Yes. So we had some people joining us. So I want to first just say thank you all for joining. I'm so happy that you are here. If you are watching the replay, leave the word replay in the comments section. And I want to thank Charlene. She left a comment. Let's see what it says. It says, I'm kind of late. What are the ages of your guest children? And can she give a specific curriculum that she used?
Sure.
So, okay.
Can y'all? Okay, I'll fix it. Go. See, this is part of we are always with you, always.
Yes.
So my children are now 10, 8, and 4. And I use LifePack through Alpha and Omega. And just, a quick little synopsis about that curriculum. Like I said, I needed something where the kids could literally read, follow instructions, and do the work. So that is what you get. You get a set of workbooks that spans the year for that particular grade. It comes in 5 subjects. And depending on the state where you live, please always make sure that you know what your state's requirements are for homeschooling, because the subjects may vary by state. And each of those subjects met our Maryland state requirement, and we literally just open up the book, start at the beginning, go through the lessons, and that's it. So that worked well for us, and we will be continuing the LifePack curriculum this year.
Okay. Great. I want to ask you a question before I go to the other comments.
Yeah, yeah,
And that is, you are phenomenal, first of all,
yeah. Oh, thank
because you
you.
mentioned that you were in the PhD program during your first year of
Yeah.
homeschooling, and you were determined that you were going to make it work and you were going to complete your dissertation and
Mhm.
graduate and everything, and you did. And I am so proud of you.
Thank you
You're
so
an
much.
inspiration to me and all the other homeschool families. But I want to just ask, because I think one of the second questions that I often get is, how do you do all that you do and still homeschool?
Yeah,
Because you are literally busy all day.
all day, all day. Like most people get a chance to clock in and clock out, baby. That's not how it works. So for me, I think the easiest part was literally having to sit down with the planner and I block out my homeschool hours first. That's what I had to do because I'm the queen of, oh, there's 5 minutes here, let me stick something in there. And then I got to the point where I was getting overwhelmed, so I put in blocks in chunks of time that I knew they were non-negotiable. Did those first. Then if I had a little block of time here or a block of time there, okay, what is my next priority? So first of all, blocking out time. Secondly, you have to figure out what your priorities are, because that's how you're going to block out your time. And then once I was able to get those things in, then I said, okay, have a little time here. And especially for me being in my own educational program, it it looked a lot like some late nights and some early mornings because, again, you're kids all day. So when they went to bed, and I stuck with a very strict bedtime schedule because I needed time to myself, because you don't really have that time during the day. So after those hours, after they were in bed, those were the hours that I was usually up doing schoolwork, or even, I write. So either it was school or writing. So I had to be intentional about my time. Now, was I always good at it? No. There were some nights that I was literally up burning the midnight oil. But when I consistently scheduled my time and I could see it, and I made sure everybody else saw it. Look, this is what's going on today. We have no more hours in this day. This is how this is going to go. Then everybody got on board.
Yes, yes. I really want to just reiterate some things that you said. The first thing is, you talked about the curriculum and how you were able to pass that on to your aunt. We have a comment about your aunt, and it's from Amelia, and it says, "Can she be my auntie too?" I know. Like, we all want to adopt her as our aunt.
She's my guardian angel for real, y'all.
She also said, "That's incredible." Yes. So here's the thing. You had a curriculum that you knew what was going to come next. Whenever I tell people about homeschooling, I say you cannot just wing it. You cannot wing every day, because it will hurt your intentionality. It will be hard to pass that on to somebody if you don't know what's coming next the next day. And so if you have a spouse, and you need to be gone. For me, my support system, it wasn't an auntie that was coming in. It was my husband. He would take off work at times when I needed him to, or it was one of my friends. And I would say, hey, this is what they're working on, because I would have like a list of objectives. So you need to have some sort of plan beforehand. It could be the curriculum itself that maps out that plan, or it could be you creating a syllabus or a list of objectives that work for your children and your family. So you need to have some sort of outline of how things are going to go day by day, week by week. You cannot just wing it. And if you do that, you're able to also work. You're able to also do other things. So when you see people who are able to multitask, it's because they have a system in place that allows them to either tell the kids what to do so that they're a little bit more self-sufficient, or they're able to tell someone else who can be their guide to help them. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
So, we have a long comment. So so Monique, she
Hi.
praises.
Now,
All
Monique's
right.
one of my friends. She's a homeschooler, a homeschool mom too. I think she said she homeschooled her kids all the way up to college. So,
Oh, wow.
yay,
So,
homeschool mamas.
so I may need you to be a guest
Yes,
on the podcast.
listen, I got Monique on speed dial too. Mm-hmm.
All right, all right. So we'll definitely need to connect with you. So Amelia asked, did you guys join a co-op?
Ooh, that's a good question. So actually, we did not. And here's why. The school that my children had been going to for the 2 years prior to us homeschooling was 40 minutes from our house one way. 40 minutes to the school, 40 minutes home, twice a day. So by the time we had decided to homeschool, I did not want to join anything. I did not want to go anywhere. I mean, and even to the point, that we ended up canceling their karate classes because they were in karate as well, because I had burned myself out, completely burned out. So for that first year, I wanted us to get into a new rhythm. I wanted us to figure it out. I wanted us to have space and margin to just be like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And I knew for some of the co-ops in our area, it was going to involve a little more commitment to being away from home than I was ready to give at the time. So we did not join a co-op. That's the long answer. No, we did not join a co-op.
So I want to say something on that from my experience. There have been some years where I did join a co-op and
Mm-hmm.
I had a great time. And there have been other years where I felt that I can't do it. Just
Mm-hmm.
like you, sometimes I don't necessarily feel like driving
Mm-hmm.
hours, or
Mm-hmm.
just even sometimes that camaraderie. Sometimes I'm up for it and sometimes I'm not. Like, I seem really friendly when I'm online and stuff like that. But sometimes I just want to be to myself. I just need
Yeah,
some quiet time, because when you are a parent, it's like quiet time is hard to come by. And
absolutely.
so sometimes when I would go to a co-op, I wanted the kids to engage, but I
Mm-hmm.
would just stay in my car.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to be fully transparent, because
Yeah,
I just needed the quiet time. It's
that's
like,
right.
yes, they need to be, so they need to socialize,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't.
Correct. And
So
and when it comes to co-ops, some of them you may or may not know what their culture is. So some of them may allow you to go drop the kids off and just, take a nap in the car. And some are like, okay, well, on Tuesday and Thursday, we need you to be the math teacher. And I was like, you know what? Since I don't want to roll the dice on that this year, I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait. So,
yes, yes. And I have done a co-op where I had to literally be in their class
mm-hmm,
all the entire time. And it was like, it was an added weight for me. And so, but I think depending on your personality, I am an introvert.
mm-hmm,
So, I love being around people, but only at certain times. I'm just being fully transparent here.
that's
And
okay.
so, doing that for an entire year was just a lot for me to handle.
Yes.
So I think that co-ops, I did eventually find a co-op that was a drop-off program, because I realized that that was better for me.
Yeah.
And my kids loved it.
Mm-hmm.
They loved it. So I think that you do have to research what is within your personality, because some
Yeah.
people live for that mommy time
Yes.
where they can talk to the other moms and dads and interact. And that is good. I like it sometimes, just
Mm-hmm.
not consistently all the time,
Right.
every time we meet. So I think you have to know, does that fit into your personality type?
Yep. Yep.
So we have another comment that I want to share. And it says, can you give a segment or give advice about someone who has another person that homeschool their children? I work full time. So my mom, who is retired, okay, I get it. So I work full time. So my mom, who is a retired teacher, will be homeschooling my daughter. I see that mostly everyone homeschools their own kids. So I feel kind of out of place because I have someone who does it for me. But I do plan all of my daughter's lessons and go over everything with my mom first. Look, that is awesome. Like
It
if
sure
you,
is.
that is
It
a
sure
blessing.
is.
That is
Um,
not something you should feel like, oh, I'm not doing it myself. Like if we had somebody that could be a stand-in for us, I assure you, we would take them up on that.
Absolutely. You hear me? You're gonna do what? Okay, yes.
And she's an educator too. I think you have
Yes.
you have a beautiful situation,
Oh yes.
and one that many homeschoolers would dream of being in your shoes. And so I think, the fact that you're close enough with your mom that she would be even willing to take on that responsibility, I think it's a partnership that you can definitely make work and can be beneficial for your kids, because so many of our kids don't get to see their grandparents.
That's right.
And so it's a blessing. And I think that's something that you should be proud of. And yeah. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I 100% agree. And I don't want her to feel like she's putting that off on someone, because literally you are using your resources, and I advocate for using any resource that you have to make your experience a good one for you and a good one for your children. And honey, listen, if my mom were alive, I would not be homeschooling my kids. She would. So kudos to you. And I'm so glad that you have somebody there that you can trust, you know?
Yes. And
That is
we've been sending our kids to school for years, so to have a safe person that will teach your kids is just a
absolutely.
beautiful experience and a beautiful opportunity for
Mhm.
you, for your kids, and for your mom, because she
Mhm.
gets to know them in a unique way. She
Yes.
gets to see their progression and their growth. So I kind of want you to speak on that,
Yes.
because when you send your kids away to school, you don't necessarily get to see their
Mhm.
learning styles,
Yep.
the face they make when they learn a new word.
Yep.
Just there's so many unique blessings about homeschool. Can you tell some of those highlight moments where you were like, oh, this is a beautiful thing. The fact that you're doing it again, I know that you had some of those
Oh
moments.
yes. Oh my goodness. And the one you said, when it's like those light bulb moments when they have them. Oh, oh, because honestly, like, you're literally seeing your children create new neural pathways in their brain before your eyes. Like, you're getting to see neuroplasticity at work. And I know I'm nerding out right now, but it's so amazing to see their minds at work. And especially when they learn something new. When you're reviewing things that they've kind of already learned, you're like, oh, my kid's so brilliant. But when you see them have an aha moment about something brand new, like, that's just a thrill that you just can't pay for. That's so good. And just knowing that my children are comfortable with me, we asked them. So, interesting story. My husband was the one who suggested that we homeschool. And why that's funny is because my husband is always talking about how I'm not working, how I'm at home. And so when he suggested it, I looked at him like, but aren't you the person that wants me to actually go out and get a job? So it was so funny to me that he encouraged it. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So, when we decided to, go ahead and ask the kids what they thought about it, they were like, yes, we love to be at home with you, mommy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the fact that they, we talked through everything with them. We were like, you would be at home. You wouldn't be able to go to school every day. You wouldn't be able to see your friends as often. But that was okay with them. And I think that was probably one of the biggest rewards that I received, was just the affirmation that they thought I could do it. And that helped me gain confidence to know that, you know what, I'm not going to mess these kids up, because they're going to be like, whatever mommy does is great. So those were some very pivotal moments that really just kind of, this is where it's at. This is what works for our family, and we're going to continue.
That is beautiful that they were even ready.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I love that you even ask them,
Mm-hmm.
because children are not just little kids without minds and
Yeah. Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
They literally are, they are individuals, and we have to treat them as such.
That's
I
right.
feel like one thing that homeschool gives parents an opportunity to do is to allow their kids to make some decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and to get that opportunity at such a young age, it becomes easier. Because I know for me, going to school, it was almost like everything was told to me what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I grew, I got used to just doing what was asked of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't so much a creator and self
Mm-hmm.
motivated. And when I became a parent and I started to be an entrepreneur and I started to homeschool, I realized, wait a minute, I have to learn how to take the initiative. I have to learn what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a blessing to really break that cycle and be able to teach your kids how to make the decisions on their own
Yeah.
before they are adults. That
Yeah.
is a skill.
And critical thinking is not common. It's not. And having the opportunity to be with them every day, I can shape and mold them into critical thinkers. And that to me has lasting and long term implications than just, I'm in this grade or I'm in this grade or I've graduated high school. Well, if you've graduated high school and you can't, you know, make a decision, then that's a problem. So, I love the fact that we're able to talk to our children and teach them how to have self agency and to think things through and to be creative. Those are all pluses, y'all. All pluses. I mean, I'm not trying to, sway you one way or the other, but I'm just
Yes, yes. So I want to be very respectful of your time because I know you got to get back to the babies. So in the last few minutes, can you tell people how to connect with you?
yeah.
And also just any final words about homeschooling and as someone who, took it on as a trial and
Mhm,
decided, hey, we can do this. I got this thing.
mhm. So yes, I just want parents to know that you are what's best for your children. Whether you decide to homeschool them, whether you decide to supplement with traditional education, whatever you decide for your family, know that you are the best thing for them, regardless. And you being in their lives is going to have, the best impact for them. Um, we're in a very difficult time right now, and it's hard to make informed decisions. And I hope that this conversation was able to kind of encourage you to make an informed decision, whatever that decision may be for you. But know that you have support. You know, Carly and myself are here. We have other networks to other people in other places. Please don't feel like you're doing this alone, because you're not. You have a community of mamas and papas who are here with our children, and we want to support you and make sure that you feel loved and seen and valued, because when you do, you pass that to your children. More than sit at a table with them every day, you're passing on values to them. You're passing on self-worth to them. And those are the things that can't necessarily be taught in the classroom, you know? So thank you so much for allowing me to come on here and share my story with you. Let's see, I'm on all the socials. So Twitter, I'm on there as QYARD08. I'm on Instagram as Quaniboo. And I'm on Facebook as the PhD Mama with 2 M's. And I love making new friends. So I'm happy to connect with all of you.
Yes. So we will, in the comment section after this is over, I
Mm-hmm.
will add a link to all of those different platforms so that people
Sure.
can connect with you further.
Yeah.
And I wish you an incredible year with your little ones.
And I
And
miss you so much.
I miss you too. But, this is also the beauty of technology. We can
Absolutely.
definitely connect. and we can get the kids, let them say hi,
Yes.
So this isn't like back when the forefathers were homeschooling, where
Right.
literally so now we can be creative. We can come
That's
up with some things
that's
to
right.
connect. So I'm happy that we are homeschooling in this time where we can FaceTime or
Yes.
Skype or whatever it is. So thank you for your time, for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
story, and just letting people inside your life for a few moments so that they could learn, hey, even if you're a busy mama,
Woo.
working on her PhD,
Come
you
on,
can
y'all.
still homeschool your kids
That's right.
successfully.
Yes, you can.
So thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. Bye now.
Take care.